The job was dangerous when you took it, Fred.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's time for the Sunday Funnies. And this episode, I have no guests. I didn't ask anybody to come on. Haven't sent out any links. If you want to join me, you are welcome to make that suggestion in the chat or on my Facebook page, probably on my Facebook page. But I just figured I'd wing this today. Normally, I don't prepare much for Sunday Funnies because I use the program just to talk about comics, and everybody loves comics, or I love comics, and we just sit around and talk the majority of the time when we have people on. Last week we had Brian K. Morris and Glenn Fleming, and Russ was on, and everybody was on. And today I know Daphne's out in Florida chasing the mouse, apparently, and Varian probably had a late night because he was up on backer shots with Lola talking to the great Hart Fisher. And if you have ever seen a conversation with Hart Fisher, you know that it's totally exhausting by the time you're done. Hart is one of my favorite extroverts, especially when he's on the air, that I've ever known, and I love him dearly, but sometimes he can really take the show, if you know what I mean. Welcome aboard, everybody. Thanks for listening. At least this is another episode of the Sunday Funnies. I am your host, Randy Zimmerman. I'm a long time alternative and independent comics producer, creator, whatever. I really need to shrink myself down because I hate looking at myself on camera. That's why I don't do a whole lot of videos, and I love podcasting. Maybe I should have a few other people in. Glenn has offered to come on in if I need the company. Glenn, I just might invite you in. Just to do that, just so I don't have to stare at my self all day. Might be a good thing. Let me do that right now. I didn't want to ask you 2 weeks in a row, tell you the truth, but you want to come in, you're welcome to jump in. Today, I thought I would, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been a big comic fan all of my life. I love comics, and I've collected all sorts of comics, and the comics I love to collect are the oddball things. Always attracted to the oddball characters, the oddball superheroes, the strange and the weird and the odd, I guess you would say. Never been a collector. I've sold some books now and then when I've needed some money, or I've sold some original art when I've needed some money. But for the most part, I just love doing comics. I love drawing, love writing, love telling stories, love talking about it. Obviously, that's why I do this show. So what I have today is I have a couple of stacks, actually a lot of stacks sitting here next to me, of all sorts of different comics formats. Not your standard 32-pager book that'll fit real easy into a bag and a board. We have those too. Everybody's got those. But you don't want to talk about those all the time. You want to see some oddball things. And one of my favorite channels on YouTube that I never watch anymore, never, is Cartoon Kayfabe. And the reason I never watch that show anymore isn't because the guys aren't great or that they don't put up interesting things. It's just that whenever they do, I never get any work done. I have to sit there and I have to watch what they're opening and what they're going through. And most of the time they're drooling over this stuff, majority of the time, because comics are great. And I don't blame them. It's not their fault. I just can't work and watch at the same time. And when I podcast from a camera that's on top of my Cintiq board. So I'm looking at me right here. And that's a little unsettling. But I figured that I would pull up some different formats. I've always wanted to do a show where we talk about different formats. Let's bring Glenn in. Glenn, how you doing?
How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. I just didn't invite anybody on the show today.
Do you want me to go?
No, that's all. That's fine. I'm happy you're here. But I just figured I've got a whole bunch of oddball formats sitting next to me of comics that aren't necessarily made to fit into a bag or a board or a long box or a slab, and that folks might be interested in actually seeing the wide variety of different publications that have been out. And if it encourages somebody out there who's doing a campaign, who's thinking of doing something a little out of the box, if it encourages them to do it, I can't be happier enough to see that happen, because I love getting the oddball book, especially if it's a comic book, and sitting there and reading it. So let's run through the chat.
I think you're more into the cartooning than I am. Actual cartooning, the Beano and all that kind of stuff. I was never really into that, as you know. I'm more into not the superhero stuff, but the more sort of serious stuff, as if it can be that call that. Do you understand what I mean? Like
oh yeah,
I was never really a Dennis the Menace fan and all that kind of stuff. You know, we used to get little things like Little Plum. I don't know if you've seen those, and they're a bit childish for me, even though I was only 8. You know.
Well, I was
all good stuff though. Good
artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always denied having superheroes for a lot of my youth because my parents felt that it was too violent. So I went out and I read everything. And in reading everything, you look at everything. And when you look at everything, you start looking at the different formats, especially when you want to do comics. You figure out how panels work and how everything is a beat and how you're always advancing or trying to advance the story or plot. As opposed to,
some people
you would hope
to have got it, do they?
No. Nowadays, no. It's just all out the window, and they just have wild, silly conversations with way too many words.
I've said before on this show that the thing that does my head in the most about today's comics, well, certainly the American comics, is the way that all the panels are like pin-ups and they're all jutting breasts and six packs and look at me, I'm gorgeous, rather than blimey, Dr. Doom's come to kill us, But he probably does the same thing now. I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's like I think there's I said this to you the other week. I think there's a great opportunity for the likes of us to step into this, this opening that's been left through Marvel and DC not producing what I think is not good stuff.
Absolutely. But right now, especially because of crowdfunding and all of the other opportunities, that people are starting to think outside the box. And if they're starting to think outside the box, to me, and I keep saying this on the show all the time, you don't have to fit in that bag. You don't have to be in that long box. You don't have to have that backing board. You don't have to if you don't want to. There's all sorts of different formats. And all of these formats can be used to your advantage and be really cool if you want to do it. Some of them are impractical anymore because our printing processes are always changing and evolving. And some of them are, I've looked, like, for example, I've always wanted to do a Big Little Book.
Yeah.
This is what they call a Big Little Book, kids. Actually, this is a more modern Big Little Book. And by modern, I mean, it was out when I was a kid, which is probably in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. This book is copyrighted in 1968, and it's a Fantastic Four. And it's a great book. I'm going to enlarge my screen here so that folks can see it. It's a great book. It's a handy little book. At the time, it was, I believe it was 59 cents.
Is that one of those publications
39 cents.
Is that one of those publications that Kirby and Ditko and the rest didn't get paid reprints for?
Not necessarily, because I believe somebody actually drew these.
Oh, right. So it's not a Kirby thing then?
No, it's off of his stuff. William Johnson is attributed as the it's definitely as the writer, but it's definitely influenced by Kirby. You can see that it's not quite Kirby. It's somebody trying to ape his style.
Right.
And I'm sure whoever did this got paid incredibly little.
Yeah. It would have been great. Just think if Jack would have been approached to do that, he'd have turned that out as well, wouldn't he? He'd have done
it in a couple of weeks. Yeah. But look at that. See, there's some nice stonework working there.
Yeah.
There's some decent things. It's not quite Kirby though. I believe this might have been, and I could be wrong. This could have been George Tuska, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that looks a lot like Kirby and a little bit like the old Hulks. They've definitely been Trempy,
given
Trempy or Tuska used to do. Yeah, Trempy.
Yeah, they've definitely been given a what's the word? A mission there, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But this book is long. It's 246, 7, 8 pages, 248, 250 pages. And it's one side of it is prose and the other side is a picture.
Fantastic.
And that's a Big Little book. And the reason Big Little books were started back then was because these printers all had to try to keep their presses wet. Because a long time ago, you had these old newspaper printers. They would print a morning and an evening edition. And then in the afternoon or in the late at night, they had nothing going on. And if those printers sat stagnant, that black ink would dry. And anybody who's dealt with India ink knows that it flakes off real easy. But it'll gum up the works on these machines. So they had to keep these presses wet. So they figured out different ways of doing that. And one of them is that they took the most popular thing in the newspaper and they stuck them into different formats.
Right.
You know, using the cheapest paper they can find, newsprint. And I've got an old book here, and this is going to be difficult for me to lift because it's literally in pieces. This is one of the first collections of comics. And in fact, I just dropped the spine on the floor. So first collection of comics of Mutt and Jeff. By Bud Fisher.
That looks like Beano type of artwork.
Yeah, this was back in 1910. It's when this was printed. And in fact, if I can get I literally just dropped the spine on the floor. It's terrible because it's in pieces. Oh, let me get it here. But if you look at the spine, and it, like I said, in pieces, sewn together, pasted together.
Yeah,
you know,
that's lovely, isn't it?
And it's 1910, and the way it's printed on horribly cheap paper. I mean, now it's completely coming off of its binding. You can see the
Have you thought about scanning it to
right on the binding? Well, all of these strips are classic strips. This is 1910, Bud Fisher.
Wow, look at that.
1910, and it's wide. It's about 14 inches wide. I got a ruler right here.
Look at that format. How good is that?
That's about 14 inches wide by about 2, 3, 4, 4.5, about 5 inches tall. And
so
the
whole strip would fit that size, wouldn't it?
That's why they printed it like that. They printed it in order to hold into a couple of pages.
So
it's literally falling apart.
So they didn't do what they did later, was chop them up. They just printed look at that. That must be nearly same size artwork on that, maybe. Well, maybe
no, not back then, because back then they were working really large on these strips because they were doing all that lettering by hand.
I could have got a job there doing that lettering.
And if you've never read Mutt and Jeff, most people have, but are at least familiar with the characters because they're iconic. It's a couple of guys, a small guy and a large guy. It's why over here in the States they refer to, if there's a tall guy and a short guy as a Mutt and Jeff team. Right. They're so iconic in American culture. A lot of the humor that was in this strip is literally the old tropes that you would use nowadays and just dismiss. This was Bud Fisher was inventing a lot of the stuff as he was going along. And what was funny, and you see a lot of these strips aren't your typical 4-panel strip.
Yeah. Some
of these are 6, 7, 8 panels wide. But it's two guys out looking for work and looking to get laid. You know, that's basically the whole purpose of the strip. One guy is sophisticated and he's a what I would call a hound dog who's out just constantly trying to play the ladies, and another guy, the tall guy ends up getting married and having a family eventually.
That guy in the middle.
That all happens in the strip.
That guy in the middle looking at his hat. He looks like, is it Jameson or something? He's on the Laurel and Hardy films, the guy with the mustache.
It might have been patterned after him. I'm sure a lot of people back then looked like that.
You know, because that guy, the guy was always the shopkeeper, isn't he? You know who I mean?
It was very much looked at like an everyman strip. That's why it was so popular. And you see, again, here's a great strip that's broken up into multiple panels where they're literally on a horse and carriage just before automobiles.
Wow. It's Laurel and Hardy's 20 years before Laurel and Hardy, isn't it?
It's about the same period, I would think. Right during the silent era.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just as Chaplin was raging. There's a very typical strip from them where they're just standing around talking or doing something. That's Mutt and Jeff.
Just think Vince Coletta would have a ball inking those with no backgrounds, wouldn't he?
Oh yeah. But again, they were producing these very, very large. Here's an excellent one. And I can pick it apart now. I haven't taken this out of the bag in years, but I had this given to me by a retailer because he said, I think you're the only person I know of that would be interested in this.
Wow.
So there's some background work there in a nice little city or a side of a house right there.
Who's the artist on that?
This is Bud Fisher.
Bud Fisher, yeah. Does he write it as well?
Yeah. I believe he did everything to start with. And then back then, this is just as, the comic strips were raging. These guys were all looked at like superstars. So they were hugely syndicated through the different newspapers.
What would the circulation be on that? I mean, it'd be thousands of newspapers, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
They must have made a lot of money. I mean,
thousands of papers.
They must have been rich because, I mean, what was it in the 70s? Was it the late 70s that John Romita and Stan Lee did the Spider-Man strip?
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that was syndicated to 3,000 newspapers a day, then they must have got at least $1 per.
Not necessarily. No, because the strips are very. When I was buying strips for Flint Comics, they were really inexpensive. In fact, I was picking up an entire package from King Features that had a whole bunch of stuff in it that they offered weekly, and I think they were offering it weekly to the papers for like $20.
Oh wow!
And that included a Flash Gordon strip, a Prince Valiant strip, and like at least a half a dozen regular 4-panel strips and 4 or 5 single panel strips as well. It was an entire pack. It was all reprints. It was all reprints from the 70s and 80s, all stuff that they, had already made their money on from the papers decades before, but it was all real classic stuff.
Well, those Stanley Romita Spider-Mans were all new material, weren't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they were all drawn. In fact, Lieber, Stan's brother Larry, picked up that strip and ran with it for many, many years.
Is he still alive, Larry Lieber?
Larry is, yeah. As far as I know, he's still alive.
Wow.
Yeah, he's the one who started Atlas Comics, worked at Timely and Atlas for quite a while.
Yeah, he didn't create Iron Man and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yes. He helped. He was working in the office back then. The stuff with comic history is that nobody really thought to keep track. Nobody kept notes. And nobody realized that this stuff might actually be worth something big. I mean, Kirby did towards the end of his life. He knew that someday Hollywood would catch up to what he was able to think, and take it and put it on the screen. But most of these guys, they never kept track of who created what. They were just hitting a deadline. They were just desperate to make sure. And again, a lot of those deadlines were driven by the printer, who insisted that they had a book in time to keep their presses wet.
Yeah,
that's why that's the whole story. And Jim Shooter had an amazing blog. I hope he still has it. I haven't seen it in a long time. He had a great blog where he explained where Avengers #1 came from, and Avengers #1 Avengers really started because Bill Everett couldn't keep his deadline on Daredevil 1. And apparently the story is that they went to find Bill. He was way behind on his on delivering Daredevil 1. They were getting close to the date where it had to go into the mail to get to the printer in order to get printed. And they couldn't find it. They couldn't find him. And they ended up going into his house and found him in the bathtub, drunk out of his mind. The book wasn't done. So in a panic, Lee calls Kirby, and the two of them, or Kirby says, "Well, why don't we do what we were talking about doing back with the FF?" And when Martin wanted a superhero team like the Justice League, we'll just throw all the big characters together and have them fight a villain and call it something. And that's how they ended up settling on the Avengers and kicking Avengers 1 out. That was probably another book that Kirby did in a week to a week and a half at tops, and put it into production, got it there on time. And because if you didn't deliver your book in time to the printer, not only was the printer mad at you, but you took a real heavy fine.
Yeah. So
they might have even shuffled another book that was done. I got another collection of cartoons here of Private Abian A. Walgreen, USMC. So he was a United States Marine Corps, reprinted from the Stars and Stripes official newspaper of the AEF. That is, again, I hate to even hold this up, This is again
Look
falling
at
apart.
that. Keep those safe. Wow, look at that.
Oh, they're already so beat up that they'll be in piles. They're like my first drawing book is like this right now too. I have it in a plastic bag, but this is World War I.
Oh,
1910, 1914.
are those in the public domain now?
Reprints. Oh, this probably, yeah, in public domain.
Could you not put it through Liberty and just put one out and scan it and put it out?
I probably could, but would anybody buy it? That's the question.
I would.
These are a collection. Well, yeah, you and I would. But that's what it is. One of the strips I carried in the paper from that package deal I was telling you about was Mud and Jeff. And I wanted it to carry it because it was iconic, not just because it was iconic, but 3/4 of the humor in there was timeless.
Yeah.
I mean, it even had one that had an old beat up 1920s automobile with a bumper sticker on the back of it that said, "Don't laugh, my other car is a horse," or something like that. Had and you would imagine that to be modern humor, but it wasn't. Anyway, with the comic strips coming together, they figured out that if they take those 4-panel strips and cut them down into pages, that they could print them in a book or put them in a magazine, kick them out on the stands for 10 cents. This is a copy of Smokey Stover. This is an old style Big Little book. The copyright date on this has got to be 20s. I got this recently. I believe it's 38. Nope, 23, 29, it looks like. 42, 43, 43. So the last copyright date on this is 1943. But this is how they used to do Big Little books. And some of those Big Little books, and here I'm going to carefully open this up in order to show you, are those the entire comic strip reprinted.
Look at that. That's just fantastic, isn't it?
And this is again classic old humor.
Well, what's funny for me being from England is the names that the Americans come up with, like Smokey Stover. You'd never get anybody over here called that.
Well, Smokey Stover was a fireman. Right. He worked at a rickety firehouse. Had a black.
That could be in the Beano and the Dandy.
Yeah, very much like that. Yep, exact same stuff.
Is there any sort of adult stuff in there?
Smokey right there. The humor isn't necessarily made for kids, but it's not nasty or dirty humor, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But yeah, it's the Big Little books have always fascinated me because I've always loved the size. I ran across them early on when I was a kid in this format, and these are in color on the inside. They later did a couple of even more cheaper formats of them, of which I don't have here, but they went with a paperback cover. This is a cardboard cover.
Do you know, I've never seen that until
printed in newsprint
today. I've never seen
a Big Little book.
I didn't know that existed before today.
Oh, there were tons. I've got 2 shelves of them in here that are all like this, and it's very rare to find them with the spine on them, because once you read them a lot, that spine pops right off. Well, because it's so cheaply bound, but they're all gang bound, all pasted together.
Wow, look at that.
You can see that.
When I started reading Marvels in the mid-60s, I was lucky enough, or we were lucky enough, that they reprinted, I've told you this, they reprinted the back issues of Fantastic Four, Nick Fury, and all the rest of it.
Oh, yeah. Over in Britain, they went through their back catalog like 4 or 5 times, one right after the other.
Before I managed to get the original books, most of my collection pre-1965 was black and white from the Pow and Terrific comics. And I told you I wrote an article about it. They even rearranged the panels because our pages were different sizes to the American comic book, and it didn't work. So they even rearranged the panels and left panels out. It's quite amazing, really, that it worked. You know.
Yeah, and even later when they printed Titan, the Titan comic, they would shrink the black and white pages down and stick 2 pages together at once. Or I even have a Titan like mini digest that's about this size that has an entire page of Marvel comics, and this is about 6 inches tall, maybe 7 inches tall.
I like the smashed up ruler you've got there, Randy. It's great.
That's I've got a few of these.
4,000 years old.
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty close. This is 5x8. Right here, trimmed down. Nice. The thing is the cover is nice and slick. Very, very slick paper. The interior is pretty close to newsprint. And this is such an odd old comic that I've kept it for that long from Beta Comics. I'm sure these guys are no longer even around. Sister and Rook, it looks like, but it's Silver and Rook maybe. But the logo on it is next to impossible to read. That's always been a pet peeve of mine. It's people who do logos that you can't read.
Yeah.
That's Silver and Rook, I think.
Right.
It looks like, yeah. But yeah, all sorts of unusual formats, and the Big Little books later on even did classic adaptions. Here's a illustrated classic edition. This is in the same Big Little book size. They came out later on with a regular trade size, almost the same size as this, I would say.
Oh wow!
With the same material in it, with the pages blown up.
Oh, that's fantastic! Isn't it?
Really big. And again, this is in Big Little book style, only it's the adaptation of the H.G. Wells novel of War of the Worlds. Yeah.
Wow.
And at the time, this puppy was $1.25, it looks like.
So when did that come out?
Oh, probably mid-70s.
As recently as that?
Looking. Yeah, you have a real, you can't find these anymore. This was 83.
83. Wow.
1983. Yep.
So that's not a reprint?
No, this isn't.
That was published for the first time in 1983.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't. If you'd have told me it was 1935, I'd have believed you. You know.
Oh no, not with the ink work on this though is really nice. The ink work illustrations on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
A flame, but still alive. Yeah. Anyway, let's see if there's an artist. It was adapted by Melvina G. Vogel, illustrated by looks like Brendan Lynch.
Wow.
Brendan Lynch from Moby Books, part of the Waldman Publishing Corporation out of New York.
Wow.
And there were a whole ton of these. They adapted a whole bunch of the old classics like this in Big Little book style.
Wow.
I love that hand. Anyway. Nice touch. But yeah, but I love War of the Worlds too, so I collect everything on that I can find as well. But that's just me. We got a chat rolling. There's a lot of people in the chat. Sorry, we haven't been ignoring you on purpose. Joe says good morning. Creators Outlet says good morning. Bristolian Dave says, all right, me blabbers. Good morning. Marv says, what? I don't believe it. Comic Book Black Belt says good day all. Russ, did you want a link? I can bring you in if you want. Always, he says, always available if needed. I guess I will send him a link just in case he wants to come in. I hadn't planned on anybody coming in today. In fact, Varian asked if he should come in if I needed to be rescued. But I've been wanting to do this show where I'm showing this stuff off for so long because I know we're being watched, and we're being watched all over the world. And I apologize to the folks listening to us on the radio that you can't see all of the stuff I'm showing today. But we will try to describe it as best as possible. Marv says, send me a link. Dave says, morning, Dave. Morning, everybody. Morning, everybody. Genuine Comics says, hello, Randy. Hail chat. Hail Genuine. Let's see, where did I leave off? I just had a dump here. Wow. Jumped again. Stop. Everybody, I love you very much. Thanks for writing in. Super chats are available over on YouTube, by the way. Helps pays for Varian's broadband. Just a suggestion. Unless you want to see a few pics I got, I will stay off and moderate the chat. All right, Joe. Thank you. Might bring you in a little later. Morning, all and Joe. Morning, everyone. Morning, Dragon Multimedia LLC. Glad you're in the house. Hey, Trish. Long time no see. Trish Bennington. Trish, I owe you a picture. I haven't forgotten. Good to see you there again. A picture and a book. I've got you on a list. I got to send out a bunch of stuff here in the next couple of days. Damien's the same way. I owe him stuff too. I have that one. You have that one. Creators Outlet. Which one was that? Creators, let me know. Probably the FF Big Little book, because that's probably the most available one around. They reprinted this about 3 or 4 times. And they also did Big Little books on Space Ghost, on Frankenstein Jr., on Journey to the Center of the Earth, which was a cartoon over here for a year.
Yeah.
A lot of Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy is really the comic strip that started the Big Little Book format. Every time anybody does a run of Big Little Books, the first book is always Dick Tracy. It must be tradition. Not that anybody's run one the last 30 years, but and they would always take the strip. I checked. I did. I got a hold of my printer guy and I showed him a copy of a Big Little Book and he just kind of laughed. And he says, "Yeah, we can do one of those if you want, but it'll be expensive."
Yeah. And
by expensive, he meant that my cost for it would probably be close to about $10 a book.
Wow. That's what he's going to charge you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I would have to retail it at a higher cost. The last couple of books that came out in this format, and this is how long ago this format has been used, was the Hercules TV show and Xena TV show had Big Little Books like this out, and they were, I think, $29.99 cover price. And that's because the printing presses have changed so much, and the folders and the bindery has changed so much that I was told there's only maybe 1 or 2 presses here in the States that are capable of folding that down and binding it properly.
Wow.
And he could be wrong, but my printer guy has been in the business for quite a few years. Morning, Russ. How are you?
I recognize top of that head.
Yes. Sorry.
Glenn, I never had you introduce yourself to the radio audience. Glenn, did I?
No.
You should probably introduce yourself since we're half an hour in.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. My name's Glenn Fleming. I'm an English writer, artist, cartoonist, and publisher. I've written and published lots of books on different subjects and science fiction, written and drawn children's books, written books about NASA astronauts, JFK assassination, football, all kinds of stuff. I'm currently just about to put out the final cut of my DVD about my visits to Jack Kirby, plus a book. We'll be with that. That's coming out in a few weeks. And that's about it, really. There's lots of other things, but I could go on forever about it. And I'm working on the second Hatch book, which will become soon, but not that soon.
And also, we're joined by Russ Leach. Russ, introduce yourself.
Hello. Yes, I'm a dungeon dweller. So I am an art monkey. I do my art. That's it. I sit in a chair and I draw. I'm a cartoonist, comic book artist, illustrator from the UK. Been drawing in Angus since 2010. Been in publishing, artist, creative industries since 1980 something. And now I'm drawing my own comic books. Rather than just getting a page rate from other people, although that seems to be coming back. I'm doing some page rate stuff for people, but most important, Only Death Can Save Us, coming out from Arrow Comics. Also, you can pick up my comic book as well, which will be out soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I jumped in because I saw what you were doing. I've got some little books. This is a reprint of Kirby.
Well, let's work our way up to it. Let's go through. Oh, look at that.
That's
cool.
That's fun.
That's cool and small. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it so small enough to be cool, but not so small that you have to have a magnifying glass in order to read it.
Oh no, it's still thoroughly readable and thoroughly enjoyable. Yes.
Yeah. I picked up a bunch of digest books, Marvel Archie comics actually, up until about a year or 2 years ago. We're kicking out digest books with Marvel material in it.
Oh wow,
that was pretty cool. This is not one of them. This is an old Sugar and Spike, what they call digest that DC would kick out. A lot of this material is new material or never printed before material, but older material that Sheldon Mayer and DC circulated over in Europe because Sugar and Spike was big, was a lot bigger over there than it was here. And it's a very funny strip. It's a forerunner to Rugrats. If you've ever seen Rugrats on Nickelodeon, if this wasn't the inspiration for it, it was a direct ripoff of it.
Right. Standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, Sheldon was an amazing creator. Had his own very unique look to his to Sugar and Spike. Let me blow this up here. And I love this strip because, for one, I used to read it as a kid, and it wasn't one of those strips that insulted me by talking down to me. All of the kids are very intelligent, even though they talk baby talk to the humans. And that one of the kids, Bernie, here is a big brainy guy. He's really smart and creates all sorts of oddball inventions that Sugar and Spike get in trouble with. And this is one of the charming strips that DC doesn't want to admit that they do it or did anymore. Whenever the kids were in trouble, they were always put in a corner. So you saw that picture a lot, especially with Spike. One of my favorite stories from this is Spike learned the words "big dum dum," and he had to say it. And Sugar, who's the girl there, who's a little smarter than Spike, and has those feminine wiles, tells him not to say it. Don't say it to the adults, because the last word you learned, you sat in a corner for an hour. And he had to say it. He had to say it. So he went over to a culvert, like a drainage pipe, and there were a couple of guys up on the roof of the house, and he set it into the gutter, and the voice went up to where the guys could hear it, and it caused all sorts of a catastrophe.
Big dum dum.
Yeah, big dum dum.
So innocent.
There's Bernie on his flying bicycle there. And Sheldon Mayer, just some fantastic stuff. If you ever see these digests out and about, I think DC actually gave it an archive treatment, at least for 2 hardbound archives. It deserves it, and it's very, very funny, very solid stuff. Even today, the humor is really evergreen on that work. Never a bad Sugar and Spike comic. Never something that's just a lot of fun. But how do they compress the pages? They used to photographically shrink them down and then shoot them into plates. Yep, off of the originals. The originals originally, the comic book originals, most time now are 11 by 16. Back then, they used to be 2 up. And they used to be very, very large. If you ever get a chance to go to a museum and see some original strip art, you'll see how these guys used to draw. Especially a Prince Valiant strip is incredibly huge. Very, very big. And he would leave it to the syndicate or whoever to worry about how they shrink it down. More than likely, they had an incredibly large camera that they could shrink it down to a proper plate. Or they pieced it together.
If they did it in the artwork, they'd have used a PMT machine. So, over here, PMT is also the same as PMS.
Yeah,
so often there would have been a little bit of a ripple of a joke whenever you spoke about
it.
PMT
Photo-mechanical transfer.
That's the one. Photo-mechanical transfer. You also used to use it to do 4-color markup and that kind of stuff, because you'd trace in a picture. Because back in the day, before digital artwork, you used to have to put key lines down on a board. Okay, put a piece of tracing paper over the top, trace in the picture that you want via the PMT, the photomechanical transfer machine, because it had like zoom abilities on it. And then you'd write it in and say, like, okay, that's the percentage. Repro guy, before it goes to print, you're going to put the picture in for us, and that was the way it used to work. And so it's quite often, I would imagine, those kind of machines would have been used to get the artwork into place for that kind of thing. Back in the old days, photomechanical transfer, when you used to have to get
back in the old days,
pieces of paper, put them through a waxer.
Yes.
Place the waxed image onto a board. Okay.
Press it down.
Press it
spray
down.
Out.
Get a spray. Oh no. We used to use wax. And then galleys of text, and you put the galley in on the board as well, and then you mark the whole lot up for color and send it off to repro.
Did you not use Cowgum, Russ?
No, I only ever used to use Cowgum for presentations. Right. So if we were doing like board presentations, and putting the design down on boards, we used to use it.
When I left college and got a job in graphics, we used to use Cowgum all the time.
Yeah. And
then one place I worked had a waxer, which was like a gold machine. It was a beautiful thing to work on. And then when I moved another place, the spray mount had just come in, and everybody was dying of.
Everyone was high.
Huge innovation, but everybody was happy. Yeah,
we had a spray mount booth. So the cow gum or the spray mount was used for design, and you used to have to put it in this booth, and you'd turn it on. There was a big fan in there so that you could spray it, and all the fumes were taken away while you were spraying about. And they used to mount stuff up for the design presentations, but all the camera ready artwork was we used waxes for.
Yeah.
Showing our age.
Literally we are. Yes. That was quite a while ago. Spray tack was such a huge invention over top of the waxing, and
but what a fantastic level of experience that people won't have because of computers. Sticky fingers and using that petrol stuff to get it off the board and all that.
Well, I also feel fortunate to have been part of the whole sort of desktop publishing revolution. I was in there. We converted from full, paste up production processes, manual processes, into a whole art studio full of Macintoshes. And Photoshop and Quark Express. And
that must have been a yank. I remember that was a learning curve right there. Yeah,
I remember it must be 30 years ago now when the Macs suddenly took off, so to speak. And I used to use a typesetter. To get you have to wait a couple of days to get your typesetting back and all the galleys back and all that. And then when you had your computer, when you had your Quark, you didn't need the typesetter anymore if you knew anything about typesetting. And so this girl rang me up and she said, "You've not," because I used to give her a lot of work typesetting, and I used to set my own because I know about leading and quads and coins and all this stuff because I learned all that at college, and. She rang me up and said, "Why have I not been sending her work?" And I said to her, "I've got my own system now. I'm using Quark." And she said, "It doesn't make you a good typographer." I said, "No, but it makes me good enough not to have to pay you."
Ouch. Ow.
We were actually in an agency that had its own
slamming in your ear.
It had its own typesetting department. So there was 6 or 7 people that were in there just constantly typing galley. And it started off that you used to have the PMT machine, because I did this when I was when I first started. I had to do some of my own typesetting, and this was before it was WYSIWYG. There's you used to put it into a green screen, and you have to put on the kerning and the type and the leading and all the rest of it. You put it in as commands, and then you press the button, and it came out as this galley stuff, and you chopped it up, put it on. Well, when I was in the agency, to start when we first started using Quark, they had, because they were in a union, we had to let them have Quark Express, and they had to type everything in.
Oh boy, yeah.
So even though we had art workers that knew exactly what they're doing, and Quark was doing it, they had to type it all in. Hysterical. Brilliant. It's almost like the BBC orchestra on Top of the Pops. Sorry, the Americans won't know. People around the world, should I say, won't know this. But back in the day, we used to have Top of the Pops on the BBC, and guests would come on, and they wouldn't be able to play their own music. So, when the Jacksons turned up, they were told, no, we've got our own band. They have to play the music, and you just have to sing.
Well, they nearly ruined just to get onto the side of music that you brought up. They nearly ruined Kate Bush's career, didn't they? Because she came on with Wuthering Heights. She'd been practicing for a month with her band, go to the BBC and said, "Oh, these guys can't come in. We have our own band." And she was absolutely devastated. You can see it in her face when she sings it. She really, really wants to just walk. And they were playing a different key and all this kind of stuff. And this is what we do. You'll have to adapt. And she said in the interview she can't watch it. It makes her cry. And you can see why, because it's her first song, her first appearance, and it's absolutely crap.
I can understand, because Quark Express makes me cry.
I used to work on a printing press at school. I used to do the out of the composing stick, with the tweezers and the upper and lower case and all that. And I used to do all the printing of the school literature. I used to love it because at one point when I was 15, I wanted to be a printer. But I couldn't get. It's one of those union things again. I went down to the local newspaper with my dad when I was 15, and I couldn't get the job unless I was in the union, and I couldn't join the union unless I had the job.
I know. It's like that. It's still like that in
way too many places.
Way too many places. But it did mean, silly stuff like that. I mean, exactly as Randy was describing her, you could get great stuff like this.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's
that's exactly what I was describing.
There's
for
there's a
Titans.
Titans. There you go.
Yep.
So it's just 2 comics pages put together. I didn't quite understand that when I was little.
That raw Jack Kirby stripped of all the color. That's what that is. It's just beautiful
superb.
stuff.
And
It's like
That's Titans.
like Essentials before Essentials, isn't it?
Yes, very much
was.
so.
Yeah,
Only a lot smaller.
yeah. And,
Essentials was printed at regular comic book size.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got any more of that. Unfortunately,
And I had a Titan.
One.
I had a Titan mini digest I've shown on the air before that took those half pages and turned out a book very similar to what we in the States would call an ash can book. That would be about
all right.
so big. That's an 8.5 by 11 sheet folded in half.
Wow.
And then stapled. And this is off of a horror host, Wolfman Jack's Chiller Drive-In with all sorts of comics on the inside and information and stuff. There's a sample of that. This is a lot more recent though. This is about 2000 and let's see if there's a copyright date on it. I wouldn't. That was a local horror host too, so it's got ads from local comic shops. It's got a little space here for you to stamp your local comic shop name on it and give it away. Chiller Theater, no longer around. Miss you, Wolfman Mac. Real bad. But that format though was pretty standard until print on demand come out. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of people doing a lot of different ash can type things. Here I am digging through my stuff again. Oh, cool. I have that. This is one of the Marvel digests that Archie Comics actually did just a couple of years ago. They would do these.
Wow, come on.
They would do these to fit in the rack with their Archie Comics digest at the grocery store.
That's a thing of beauty. I like.
They're selling those for I think it was $7 or $8, $6.99, I believe it looks like.
Wow.
Price is right there. Let it focus at $6.99. Yep. And normally you could tell when they printed the old classic reprints to when they printed the more modern material, because the modern material all has black frames around it.
Right.
So the older, the classic stuff is all pretty standard. And again, they were reprinting. They would reprint a couple of Kirby stories and then reprint a more modern X-Men story or a Marvel Adventures story. This is X-Men First Class, I believe.
Wow, look at that.
That's a reprint book. And again, these are the size of the old Archie Comics digest. And you could find those on grocery stores. They were only available. They only did maybe a dozen issues. There's a reprint of an old, new old X-Men, Colossus. They were only available for a short time. I think Archie went and got the license for probably a year to a year and a half, and then ran a bunch of material. There's some classic. There's some classic Dave Cockrum.
Oh,
yeah.
Material right there. Only it's really small. And it's digest size, the same size as those the Archie stuff. And they would run your occasional ad. There's an ad for Riverdale. That's how recent it was. Riverdale, I think, is on its 4th or 5th season now. But they were a mess because you can't keep these things in continuity when you do that. But sometimes you get some really good stories. Like this is one of the first or second X-Men story, Evil Mutants, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I think that's number 2 or 3.
Yeah.
First time for Danger Room. It's right there.
Ruined by Paul Reinman. Sorry, inked by Paul Reinman.
You say ruined by Paul Reinman. Yes. We all have our favorites.
Yeah.
Not a lover of the ink, so
Must have been X-Men.
X-Men.
There's X-Men. What is that? 2 or 3? 9. That's X-Men 9, where they meet the Avengers. Yeah,
that's fantastic, isn't it? Chick Stone, he was a good inker.
Just amazing type stuff. But yeah, they sold every time a new Marvel MCU movie would come out, they'd kick out a digest every other month or so.
Wow.
So, and that's
still not put them in the cinema.
Number 4. Wish I was in control of those reprints, because I would have made a hell of a book. I think it would have been a lot of fun. But yeah, this format I love also. When I was a kid, I would get that. I also have an old strip collection of Garth as well. That was printed. Classic Frank Bellamy. Yeah. 1976. This is. And I'm sure the strip is probably a little bit before that. And because it's English, you have to watch you have to actually look at it before you can show it on the air, because your standards for nudity over there are a lot different than ours. Yeah. So and then Garth especially was not a kid strip. It was more of an adult-oriented strip that ran through the papers, and every once in a while, the girls would lose their tops.
Yes, only once in a while.
Only once in a while. Let's see. That can't show that page, even though it does. I might be able to cover that up. It has a great backside shot there by Frank Bellamy. Just amazing. Just phenomenal artist. Absolutely great. That's why I love looking at the unusual formats, is because you never know, the artwork in there, the quality of the material is just amazing. One of the last big little book formats to come out was by Dark Horse. So they adapted Lone Wolf and Cub. They also did Samurai Assassin the same way. Nice and small. And again, the price on that was what was that? $9.99. That was absolutely cheap. They must have found some place to print that overseas. It's the only thing I can figure. But again, this is, and if you've never read Lone Wolf and Cub, absolutely classic manga. The phenomenal sequential art. Well, these guys were kicking them out. They were moving so far, so fast.
Oh, look at that.
This is absolute classic material. I believe one of the streaming services currently has the Lone Wolf and Cub series available. I think it's HBO Max under the TCM hub. Have all of the Lone Wolf and Cub movies together. And if you haven't seen this title, the first comics originally reprinted it here in the States, and then Dark Horse went through the entire run and put them together into books like that. There's like 20 or 21 of them, all told. Phenomenal reading, just amazing piece.
Were they all flopped? Because the Akira was flopped, wasn't it? Because Japanese.
I am pretty sure you're right. This was all flopped material.
Yeah.
It's definitely, because I hate reading back to front, but these were amazing front to back.
Yeah.
And again, whoops, I had to look at that, because you never know what you can find. There's a picture of Cub taking a whiz. So classic. Look at that.
It's fabulous, isn't it?
Just classic manga work. And again, you wouldn't see that here, and this material especially needs to be blown up bigger and collected in hardbound. But
when did that one come out?
This is not that old. This is I would almost have to switch glasses because they print this stuff so small. Oops, let me get off of me here.
When would the original one be out then?
Oh, and again, another good question. I think these were done in the 60s originally.
60s. Wow.
I mean, the mangas were done, but the printing on this was done a lot more recent. First comics went through and did a run of them and had all sorts of recognized American artists do covers for them, like Sinkovich and Miller and that kind of thing. That level of artists, real recognized comic artists do covers on them. 2000, August of 2000.
That book
was when this book was printed. Yep.
Right. I mean, where is all this stuff? I mean, they keep pulling out these fantastic books from the 60s and 50s and whatever.
This is why I love collecting this oddball stuff.
Where is it?
You have to look around. Yeah. really, but every once in a while you'll find a collector or a dealer who'll set up at a convention. I like to call them paper dealers because they don't really deal solely in comics, and they deal in everything else. That you can spend hours at their table looking through stuff, looking for the odd and unusual. Here's a copy of Byron Press, Fiction Illustrated.
Ooh,
Oh wow!
And this was on the stand. Starfawn, Byron Press, and Stephen Fabian. Stephen, I'm pretty sure is no longer with us, but and again, this is that same digest size, all original material.
Oh.
Very 60s, very 70s looking science fiction story that's deep and cosmic, like all of them back during that period. Oh, I really have to start looking at what they're.
Yeah, I was about to say that front cover would have enticed a lot of 14-year-old boys in.
Yeah, it probably would have. It's a celestial being. You're not really seeing any type of
anything.
It's just the curves. Just the curves.
Just the curves. Yep. But it's Byron would play around with different formats as well. Byron Price or
It's
Press
gorgeous.
did a lot of Fiction Illustrated. The one that I keep looking for, there is a edition of this called Chandler that Jim Steranko did. That's in this size. That's very much it's a hard-boiled detective story from the 40s, and it's very stylized. You can see where a lot of Frank Miller had to have owned a copy of Chandler before he did Sin City. Because there's a lot of very interesting, and Steranko is a genius when it comes to graphics and layouts, that kind of stuff. Anyway,
Steranko is just
but he did a classic shot of a woman through a very noir shot of a woman up against a reflected window with blinds on. So all you saw was the stripes of light going across her body. That's just it's one of those pictures that when you're a kid, you just look at in awe and you go, that not only is that enticing and pretty, but it's an incredibly well done piece of art.
I just loved the whole run on Nick Fury. It basically was part of my. It was part of the things that. Part of the influences that made me what I am, without a doubt. So there was. I was reading Captain Britain, and all the Captain Britain stuff was original. Buscema ended up doing a run on it, but then there was Kirby and Buscema Fantastic Four reprints, and then there was all the Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. reprints as well.
Yeah,
and it just that is without doubt those are the things that made the biggest influence on me. Jim Starlin, rushing up behind, and. Probably Neil Adams on Batman as well, rushing, and Romita on Spider-Man. All of them sort of supporting that head cast for me as far as influence is concerned.
I didn't really run into Neil Adams until I bumped into his X-Men run.
And that's just
there you go. Look at that.
Look at that
classic.
That's from my.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have that one.
Yeah.
That's Marie Severin on the cover, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I don't know that.
Yeah, she's
hold that cover up again.
Yeah, it's Marie Severin when she was doing Doctor Strange, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah,
Look
at the Doctor Strange story in there.
Is it Dan Atkins ink in that?
Hold on.
Is it Denny O'Neil might have been writing that, or Roy Thomas at that point?
Sure. Stanley, Marie Severin.
Yeah.
Stanley.
Yeah. Doesn't say anything else.
Marie was working as a bullpenner at that point and doing that work off on the side.
She was good, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Look at this.
Very underrated. Back then, her Not Brand X are still classics.
It's just so exciting.
Look at that.
Everything about those pages is exciting.
And that is just Steranko knew Zipatone at the time, but he really wasn't playing with a lot of the graphic layouts at that point. I remember Nick Fury 3, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. 3 was one of the first comics I got. That was Nick Fury crossed with Hounds of the Baskervilles.
that.
Yeah.
And it was, and there was another one where
classic.
the first 5 pages, there's a bit of a story behind this about
Yeah.
not
I was
getting
gonna
paid
say
for a
that.
writer. There's a
Yeah.
few pages where
Yeah.
he was destroying what were they called? Replacements. I can't remember what the clones.
Life model decoy. Yeah.
Yes.
LMD.
LMDs. And it was a whole bit where, and he was climbing up the outside of the building, and he'd made the titles the outside of the building.
Yeah.
It was just stunning. As a young kid, you're looking at it going, oh my God, how creative is this? And then of course in some of the Fantastic Four that was going on at the time as well, which there was reprints of Kirby stuff, and then in Steranko as well, he was like using photocopies of photographs in his artwork.
In collage,
just utterly brilliant.
But that
stuff.
Steranko was doing when in Shield. I don't know which one it is, but the first you got the splash page, and then you've got the next 2 pages, and then the following 2 pages. So you got 5 pages, and it's all the same drawing if you put them all together. Is that the one you were mentioning there?
Yeah, but that one is the one where he's up against the yellow
yellow claw.
Yellow claw.
That's it. And it's just like, and it's all just these double page spreads, and I think it's like 3 or 4 pages that are all effectively one long piece, and it's like, look at this. This is just fantastic.
And shamefully, that material is going to be incredibly rare to see in reprints because of the stereotypical treatment that the Yellow Claw was, as far as your Asian mad scientist.
It was, but it was of its time, and it should be seen as of its time.
The best thing about the artwork on that is that Jim Steranko owns the artwork. He has the artwork.
Yeah.
Does he really?
He has all his Marvel artwork. Well, he might have sold it, but let's say he got it back.
Right.
Let's put it that way. He got it back.
Amazing.
As obviously other people didn't. But he didn't do that much, did he?
No, he did that run. He did that run, and he did a bit of Captain America, didn't he?
Yeah. He did, I think, 1 or 2 issues of X-Men.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, didn't he? Because they went from like Smith to Steranko to Adams.
Very early on, yeah.
Could you imagine right towards the end of the first run? Yeah.
Can you imagine having that small, an actual physical presence in the industry, and yet still having such an amazing effect on it?
And he is small. He's only about 4'2".
And again, Steranko comes from a very hardcore showman stage background, so he knew when to step out and when he had hit the frustration mark. And he went on to do Media Scene for a while. Did that Chandler book, like I said. Did Media Scene as a newspaper for quite a while. Did 2 issues of the History of Comics. That is just amazing.
Yeah,
he did painting as well.
Incredibly well researched.
He wasn't mates with Clint Eastwood.
Of paintings for a lot of paperback books.
Wasn't he mates with Clint Eastwood? Isn't that right?
Don't know.
Wasn't he pally with Clint Eastwood?
He did
all depends on what story you want to.
Okay.
If you ever, I had Steranko autograph my sketchbook one time. He was here at a show, and I sat there for a half an hour and listened to him go on 2 stories around the Hulk Annual 1 cover that he did. That is very classic. That's got Hulk.
That's the one who's lifting up the
Inhumans with the logo on it. And he was talking about how Marie Severance had to go over. They made Marie go over his work and knock out half of the detail because it was too frightening.
Too frightening. Have you seen?
Yeah, because he put in all the veins on the muscles. Yeah. He did that. He goes, you want to hear that story? I can tell you that story. He goes, this was done over a weekend. I got it there on Monday, and they took a look at it, and they threw it to Marie, and she had to go through and knock half of the detail out of the muscles. And the veins on the muscles, because I had over detailed it. If you ever get a chance to see Steranko in at a show, definitely chalk off a half an hour while you wait to get him to sign something, because he'll go on and on and on and on in a beautiful fashion. If you ever go to dinner with him, dinners are 4 hours long with Jim, because you sit there and you add all he needs is a topic and he goes.
Did you see that adaptation of Outlander that he did? Have you got that?
Oh man, that's been a long time since I've seen that. I need to dig that up.
That's superb.
Oh yeah.
Outlander movie.
Outlander
Yeah.
movie, the Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my edition's in Dutch. I think I only managed to get a Dutch edition.
Yeah, I haven't seen one of those. If I ever saw that at a show, I would pick it up. They did it in a magazine, if I'm not mistaken, format.
Yes.
Almost a trade paperback. Because I have Simonson's Alien in trade paperback. He adapted Alien, the first Alien movie. That's amazing. Yeah. But I'm in awe of Simonson, especially his early work anyway, because just like Steranko, he had that graphic sense and he was constantly playing and thinking about composition and layout and all of that. The kind of stuff that you don't see anymore. That just doesn't happen.
I'm sure I read in Comics Journal an interview with Walt Simonson when somebody asked him if he still had his Star Slammers artwork from '73. Is it
also a nice work? Yeah.
And he said, yeah, and he said, why have you not sold it? He said, because it's going to put my kids through college.
Yeah.
so whether that happened or not, I don't know.
It probably would.
Yeah.
Probably
would.
Would.
Now. Yeah.
And speaking of great artists, here's a Treasury edition of the Bible.
Oh,
done by the one and only Joe Kubert.
Yeah. There's another
fold out cover.
What a fantastic cover that is!
Great Treasury edition. Some of that looks like it was done by Alcala. It must have been.
So when did that come?
Sheldon Mayer, Joe Kubert, Nestor Redondo. Nestor Redondo did that.
Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. Beat that.
Jeez. Well, it's unbeatable.
Wonderment.
I can't beat that.
Talking to the grandpa about the Bible. This was 1975.
Wow.
Them faces. That's Nestor.
Look at that. He's a great artist, Redondo, wasn't he?
Yeah, just amazing.
Look at that. I'll tell you what I've noticed about these European artists mainly is that they're all good at drawing faces and figures, like Serpieri and.
Well, they're more classically trained.
Yeah. That's lovely, isn't it?
I'm here staring at the back or at the wraparound cover again of Moses.
I wonder what size the artwork is for that.
I would think it's pretty close to original size because of the Treasury edition. Yeah. And the Treasuries themselves were, what was that, about 12 wide? They were 10 and a quarter wide by about 14 tall.
Wow.
And again, another format you don't see enough of. And even now, IDW's done some Treasury work, and it's been a lot smaller than this and not nearly as good a format. I've shown off Destroy before by the great Scott McCloud. That is a classic book. We've seen, and I still have this in plastic, the Land of Oz book that they did. If anybody ever sees that at a convention, definitely pick it up. That is by Alfredo Alcala. And it is, again, just amazing material off of the second Wizard of Oz book, which is one of my favorites. Read that when I was a kid and had a deep influence on me. That's them chasing Ginger and her all-girl army away.
Didn't John Buscema do the film version of it?
He might have. I don't have it.
Yeah.
And they did a #1. This is actually they don't have this listed as a 2, just a Marvel Treasury of Oz. They have a #1 on it with a 75. This is 2 years before
that back cover.
The new X-Men popped up.
Good Lord.
Let me take that out of the plastic again. Actual bag for a Treasury edition. Who knew?
Just beautiful.
I believe that is Remita.
It's in the bottom right. Is it lift it? Just come to the side. Bring the other side. Yeah.
Remita.
John Romita,
yeah.
Wow.
Mr. Wogglebug right there.
Yeah.
That's Mr. H.M. Wogglebug T.E. Jack Pumpkinhead and the Sawhorse Mombi.
And of course he draws the gorgeous girl, John Romita, doesn't he?
Ginger, yeah.
Wow.
Romita was I'm afraid I'm not keen on Junior.
No, I'm not.
Not keen on his style at all. But wow.
look what Marv says. Yeah. Look at what Marv says. We hate Dave Houston and now we hate you, Randy.
Well, what? I haven't gone down in the chat yet. I'm so sorry for ignoring the chat, but we've got stuff to show off here. So, morning. What? Oh, we hate Dave Houston, and now you, Randy. What's up with Dave Houston?
He's got the big collection, hasn't he?
Oh,
he's got this. Have you not seen Dave Houston's collection?
No, I haven't.
Oh wow, well I have. He lives about 30 miles from me, and I've been a couple of times to his house.
I try not to. Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
just for jealousy's sake, you know.
I'm going to do a special edition of Comics Unlimited about Dave Houston's collection because it's that big. It's got cool. everything. You won't believe it.
Oh, sweet, awesome. And I've shown this off before too. That's folded, sadly.
Look at that, Russ.
We have had this on the show before, but it was probably well over a year ago. Whammo Giant Comics.
Look at that.
So they took a Whammo, wanted to print a comic book, biggest comic ever.
Look at that lettering as well. It's wonderful, isn't it?
Not just that, but look at this. I'm going to try to show
that
this without it coming apart.
Book.
That is a giant comic book.
Oh, look at that.
There's
whoever drew that had fun drawing it, didn't they?
I believe a lot of this is wood. There's a signature.
Yeah, look at that.
Jack Kirby would have drawn that over lunch.
Over lunch, yeah, probably.
In the middle of Fantastic Four and Thor, he'd have just zipped that one off.
That says W.T. Venison. Whoever that was. 98 cents, folks. 98 cents. Over 1,500 comic panels. They took that comic strips and cut them and pasted them together into incredibly large stories. There's even a great and of course, approved by the Comic Code Authority.
Yeah,
right there.
98 cents.
98 cents.
And they were ripping you off, weren't they?
Yeah. And then this was from the same that same retailer that gave me the Mutt and Jeff book. He kind of handed this to me and said, I found this on a high shelf. You think you got any interest in it? I said, hey,
he'll be knocking on your door tomorrow saying, you know those books I gave you?
There is
Radian.
Radian. Very rare wood.
Wow. So when's that from? 50s?
Oh, this was printed. No, this is 60s. This is 60s. 1967.
Wow.
So right there in the indicia down below here.
Yeah. So is it be in the middle of doing Thunder Agents when he was doing that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, probably. He was Wood was one of those artists like Kirby and Kane, Gil Kane, that went out and tried to do anything they could to make a living doing commercial work. Wood would fill in for comic strips. He did a couple of weeks of Little Abner, a couple of weeks of Prince Valiant, did about a month or so's worth of the Spirit sections back in the early 50s with Spirit on the Moon.
Wow, I didn't know he did the Spirit.
Oh yeah, let me get that here. Oh, I got it.
Oh yeah, I have seen that. Seen that.
Very, very wood. Right there, you can tell by the breather.
I like that.
Right
you know that the piece built which the bottom of the space helmet that's touching the guy's chin. That looks like the kind of belts he draws on Thunder Agents, doesn't it?
It does. Yep.
And it also looks like the machinery on the sides of his spacecraft. He always draws that.
And look at that moonscape. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that rocket.
All negative space. Just phenomenal stuff. And that rocket, yeah. The old standard 50s cigar rocket. Yep. This is a Spirit archive that DC kicked off quite a while ago. They ended up collecting everything that Eisner had done for the Spirit into bound volumes like that. That was number 24. And
then they did a wood cover. Rather than
that was the cover for the Spirit section.
Right.
So
that's wonderful.
And then inside they reprint all of the Spirit sections in order. So if you really want to read classic Will Eisner and you're at a show and you find a Spirit archive, anything from about I think it's volume 14 on is just incredibly classic Will Eisner, just classic Spirit material, all incredible reading, well worth the cost of admission. This is another treasury that I had to pull out.
I've got that one. Yeah.
The old 2001, very, very bizarre.
Is there any way of getting hold of that? No, not necessarily that, but a reprint of it, or any? Is it?
No,
I don't think.
There's
I
a big
think
thing in there about the reprint. They've locked into copyrights again with the reprint, as they do with lots of things. I told you about the Avengers, didn't I? That was printed in Mandy, I think, in about 1969. I told you about that one where they're arguing over somebody owns the logo, somebody owns the name, and somebody owns the artwork, and they can't say, "Let's just take a third each,"
Yeah,
and let everybody have it.
Oh dear.
I'm not sure which book you were talking about. Apex, the one that's worth 500, but most of the ones that I have here, I just have for reading. So
they did the same with Laurel and Hardy films in the late 80s, didn't they? Somebody came up and said he owned them, and somebody said he owned them. So they weren't shown on television for sort of 7 years while this court case went on.
Yeah.
And then one of them won it, and then he could produce them. And my argument was, why couldn't they just show them anyway, or put them on sale anyway, put the money in a pot, and whoever won it got the pot?
Yeah.
Because all they did was stop us watching them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't care who owns it.
Yeah.
But,
and most of us have all seen a Shonen Jump before.
Yeah.
Done in reverse. It's a Japanese read from our back to front. Printed on cheap newsprint, multiple colors, multiple ink colors, black and white. Sold incredibly inexpensively, weekly, off of the newsstand, but thick.
I didn't know you could read Japanese, Randy.
I don't. Japanese. I just look at the pictures.
Yeah.
But there's in this book is a golf strip, a romance strip, an action adventure strip. Everything but superheroes are in this.
Yeah.
All doing, all in small clumps. There's part of the golfing strip.
Wow. I think my first exposure to sort of manga and Japanese art was Marine Boy. Do you remember that one in the cartoon?
Marine Boy.
I do. Marine Boy.
I remember watching G-Force.
Yeah.
G-Force, yeah.
I think that was probably my first one.
The horribly overdone Americanized versions with the R2D2 type character running front and back of the show.
I don't remember that.
No, I don't remember that one.
Maybe that was just for the American market.
That could be.
Do you remember Starfleet?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Starfleet was like puppets. It was like Jerry Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Got a copy of Titans, right? Action, mystery, and villains galore.
Oh, that's what you want.
Yeah.
I remember watching Starfleet for about 3 series, and then the last one, there was a big climax, and I missed it. I was working, and I missed the last one, and I still don't know what happened. And this is about 1983. So if somebody can tell me what happened, let me know.
Was it like Star Trek? Was it like Star Trek?
No, it was. Well, yeah, it was puppets. It was like Jerry Anderson type of thing, with the marionettes in it and stuff like that. But it was Japanese manga type of style, yeah.
Huh.
Starfleet, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm going to have to keep my eyes open for that. I'm a big Gary Anderson fan.
I could even sing you the song, but I won't.
My brothers turned my sandbox into Tracy Island. Ticked me right off when I was a kid. That's classic.
Oh,
it's classic Remitta.
That's a Remitta, yeah. 1967.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I got another one, a quite recent one actually from Image, and that was a brand new Micronauts.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different size.
Hang on, let me blow that up. Let's look at that.
It's like a pocket size.
Micronauts.
And I was hoping it was going to be a reprint of all the old Micronauts stuff.
Of the Michael Golden material.
Yeah. Because as a kid, I remember taking one of his pages at A4, like standard comic book size, and completely reproducing it at that size. So I wasn't reproducing it at 1.5 times the size. I was reproducing it at size for size as it was printed. And I loved that stuff. Absolutely loved it. Loved his spotting of blacks and the way that it worked. But so I was a bit disappointed when I got this, actually, that it wasn't that stuff. But there you go. Such is life. You were showing like one of those side books that was... I used to love the Far Side.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
It came from the Far Side. Yep.
I've got like loads of those, and then eventually they started getting them to me in these kind of big compendiums.
A lot of the the Barnes and Nobles have those in their discount sections.
Yeah.
That and Calvin and Hobbes, they're offering
I-
reprint books. Here's
I still have the last desk calendar he did in the box.
Oh, yeah.
Unopened. I didn't open it. I
Far
left it
Side.
in the box. Yeah,
I do too. Here's an old reprint hardback
Ooh,
by Barks.
Oh,
look at that.
Meant
The
as a
golden
kid's book.
helmet.
You find it in the kids section.
That just makes you think of 1970 Christmas Day. That's just
It was printed
This makes you
in
think of the 70s.
1980. They took the
Really? Yeah.
comic strip, or the comic pages, and cut them down, refashioned them.
squeak.
amazing.
But it's the whole story. Let's look at that. Just classic Barks.
Superb.
Pop Culture Avengers asking me whether I like Space Precinct. Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed that. Yeah,
Space Precinct.
Precinct,
Oh,
yeah.
I know. Space
not as good as
Precinct.
Captain Scarlet, but it was.
We're gonna.
good.
Are we
Oh,
going to
yeah,
be getting
Captain
into
Scarlet.
what was the last
Ned.
one they did with that
Terrorhawks.
Terrorhawks?
That was
Yeah.
terrible.
that
That was terrible.
That was terrible.
That was with the hand puppets though, like spitting image, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Rather than
Yeah.
the marionettes.
Yep.
God,
Well, they went through and visualized 3, I think, old Thunderbird recordings that they had, episodes that they had put on record. They went through and redid those in Super Marionation a couple years back. They had a campaign for it.
So looking at different sizes of stuff, this is obviously blown up from a standard comic book size, but reprinted for the UK market. I still have my cardboard Terminator on the front. It's
Look at that.
Terminator.
It's magazine size.
Yeah, Terminator magazine, and there you go. There's because it was Terminator Robocop versus Terminator, and
Who's
it's all
drawn that, Russ?
Walt Simonson.
Yeah, Walt
right.
Simon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely, it's beautiful stuff.
Amazing
Lovely.
stuff.
And
Yep.
of course, because they've blown it up, you actually get to see it a little bit more clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really nicely done. He just does lovely work. Very
Yeah, he does.
stylized, but lovely. Absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
I think that's part of the charm, though, is the style.
Yes. Yeah.
Stylization.
Oh, I've learned that. I have learned that's really what's the important thing, is making your work exciting.
Yeah.
It's not all about how correct you can make it. It's about
That's right.
how much fun you can make it.
Classic Comics Press kicked
Wow.
out a lot of strip adaptions. This is Dondi by the great Irwin Hasen. If you've never seen that, talk about style. Kid with dot eyes. Big comic strip for me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's an orphan kid, kind of a male version of Little Orphan Annie.
Just how graphic is that? I mean, the presence on the page of that strip.
Yeah.
Look at the deep blacks.
And again, this is Irwin Hasen. He went on to teach a lot at the Kubert School.
Yeah. No fear in that artwork whatsoever.
Well, this is classic old comic strips right there.
Mm.
They always look good in black and white. Even the Sunday pages were amazing. You can see a lot of Kniff influence, a lot of the influences of the time. Irwin did a lot of stuff for DC during the Golden Age. Went off and did Dondi because it was a lot more profitable doing a comic strip and getting it into a couple of thousand papers than it was doing comic book pages. So a lot more prestigious as well.
That's
I
what
don't do
Kirby
that
was
anymore.
trying to do with Sky Masters, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yep. A lot of comic strip reprints over the years. There's comic strip newspaper.
Caniff.
That's still around today, I believe. And that collects all sorts of comic strips. There's the old Star Wars by Alcala or Alfredo.
Oh,
Stuff you very rarely see anymore. I think Dark Horse might have reprinted that once. Classic Little Orphan Annie, Rip Kirby material. They reprint, of course, everything in order. You can get a regular subscription to this, I believe, still, and have it mailed to your house.
Wow.
The only trouble with all this fantastic artwork is you get
Terry
the
the
feeling
Pirate.
of being a little bit inferior.
Yes, you do, don't you? You want to
You look at this stuff
again, don't you?
and you're left in such awe.
Can't let that stuff intimidate you. That's the thing.
But it does.
Oh, it
Some of
does.
it,
Yeah.
yes, a lot of it does. Yep. Done a lot of great collections over the year. Of course, DC, one of their biggest mistakes, Wednesday Comics.
Wow.
They offered that every Wednesday to the comic shops for 2 months. Used to sell it for $4, I think, $3, $3.99, I believe that price is.
Wow.
They
And
went
they don't
through
do
and
it anymore.
there's
Death, did it?
yeah. Back when I was doing the Flint Comics paper, I was afraid that they were going to keep doing it because the format is so good, and that it's so affordable for them because they probably. The printing on newsprint like this was printed on newsprint, had no staple on it. They went out and they found the best people they could working at the DC offices at the time. And there were a lot of really incredible artists there at the time doing work. You had Dan Didio and Jose Garcia Lopez doing the Metal Men.
Yeah, Metal Men, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Just incredibly classic stuff. Joe Kubert was doing Sergeant Rock, I believe, for a strip. Demon and Catwoman was done by. What was that? It's too dark for me to read. Just some great stuff here, Sergeant Rock. Right there. And these are done old style newspaper tabloid size, like the old style Sunday pages. They did enough issues of this in order for them to collect it together into a coffee table book, and then they stopped. But for a while there, every Wednesday, for a couple of months, you were able to go in, and for $4, you could get some great large artwork printed on pretty white newsprint. Not the whitest newsprint available, but decent stock. Better than what you would find in a normal newspaper, or maybe not so much anymore as far as the color comic sections go. But it was a great piece. Kyle Baker doing Hawkman.
Oh.
Look at that. Just phenomenal, beautiful stuff that they stopped once they got enough for a coffee table book together, because they'd rather sell a 75-cent or a $75 widget as opposed to a bunch of $4 widgets. Even though they probably had a whopping 20 cents at most in the production, probably less than that, probably closer to 16 to 15 cents in the printing on the book. The majority of their costs on this would have gone to the art teams that were doing the phenomenal stuff. One of I consider DC's biggest mistakes. Got a lot of different versions of Tintin by Hergé.
Fantastic.
Yeah, just amazing stuff. A lot of it came out in trade paperback size. One version I found particularly amazing, and I've got a strain here, just a little bit. Here's a copy of Tintin, Red Rackham's Treasure.
Look at that. Do you know a friend of mine
bigger than a treasury edition.
Aren't there about 25 volumes of original books on that? My friend got them all when he was a kid. He would never let me look at them. He'd show it to me, but he'd never let me hold it or even read it.
That were that big? That's just super huge.
Not as big as that. On the other size that you showed.
Oh, the trade paperback size.
Yeah. This is in the mid-60s. He had all.
Yeah, that's when these first came out. Yeah. They've been reprinted off and on ever since. There's a whole series.
I did not appreciate that stuff when I was younger. I didn't.
There's a lot of stuff like that I never appreciated either until I didn't.
Glenn was talking about things like Dandy and Whizzer and Chips and Beano. Yeah. I didn't like that stuff when I was a kid either. I occasionally got the stuff and enjoyed it, but it wasn't my thing.
No.
And it's only recently, and I didn't like this stuff at all.
Yeah.
But it's only recently that I just, that I appreciate all of it, everything. Just how beautiful it is, how well it's done, how well the stories are told.
Yeah.
The skill that's gone into the rendering, just brilliant stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And I picked this up for next to nothing at a discount bookstore. I think I paid maybe $10 for it at most.
Wow.
Just phenomenal. Great stuff. And again, it was one of those things I picked up. I never saw that format ever before. And I just had to buy it.
Used to watch the animated version of Tintin as well.
Yeah, I did.
Really?
Hergé's Adventures
of Tintin. Yeah.
Fantastic. Race to the Moon and all this stuff.
Brilliant.
He was always in the Himalayas, wasn't he? In places like that. He was always in really obscure places.
It's like he must have got some serious air miles.
And there was isn't the Himalayas one where the Nazis are after him?
The Nazis were involved on occasion.
Yeah. Because they were always like skulking in the background when they're on the ship going somewhere, weren't they?
Yeah.
And they were obviously Nazis, the way they looked and everything.
Obviously Nazis, yeah.
Obviously.
As against obviously not Nazis now. That's
just the way they used to hang out in the background, the Thompson twins and all that kind of stuff, and it's absolutely brilliant.
And formatted and reformatted material. Here's Gil Kane's Black Mark Marvel preview. If you've never seen Black Mark before, Black Mark originally was designed to come out as a paperback. They sold one issue of. Like that Mad book that I was holding up earlier. Oh, let me find it here. Oh, here's a copy of Starhawks in that size.
Yeah, I've not got that one, but I've got a Starhawks.
They've reformatted Starhawks in a lot of different great formats as well.
Yeah, Gil Kane's one of the best artists ever, isn't he? As well,
it's just amazing.
It's superb work.
This is Starhawks in trade paperback size, and again, these strips were printed 2 tiers up for your newspapers, so they're it's all done sideways.
Yeah, beautiful,
lovely.
This
is Gil Kane with Ron Goulart, I believe, writing.
Yeah, I told you I was going to talk to Gil Kane, and he got called away to a panel I never saw him again. I was just standing in front of him. I just said, Gil, and he looked at me, and this guy said, Gil, we're on. And he just walked away on the panel.
Yeah.
He didn't even say, sorry, I've got to go. He just went.
It's turned and went, yeah. Black Mark, if you've never seen it, and this has been reformatted to fit the magazine size, is a combination of prose and pictures that Gil Kane put together. Well, they did that because this particular Black Mark had never been reprinted up to this point. So he did 2 issues of this and paperback book size. This is Fantagraphics has gone through and enlarged the artwork up into a Black Mark volume. I think it was Fantagraphics.
Do you know Gil Kane is probably the only American artist I thought should have drawn or could have got away with drawing Garth.
Yeah. I could see that very easily.
Something like Kirby on it wouldn't work. But if he's just such a great figure illustrator, Gil Kane, and the blacks on his work and all that kind of stuff. Look at that! Yeah. Look at that hand! Wow.
And this is Gil Kane, and I believe Archie Goodwin was going through and putting the narration in on that. Just amazing material.
Thank you.
So this is Zim Man has quite the collection. Pop culture. Avenger says, "Yeah, I've been collecting for a long time." So, and again, I like the oddball stuff. Byron Price that we had talked about before. Let me take my bookmark out. Was also playing around with graphics and pictures. Did a Roger Zelazny, the illustrated Roger Zelazny. I believe there's also an illustrated Harlan Ellison out there, where he just found the best artists of the day, and they sat and adapted a lot of the work. There's, I believe, the Great Gray Morrow right there. All in small paperback book size.
It just shows how good the artwork is. It's tiny there, isn't it?
That was also used for the cover.
If they'd have printed it any size that was worthwhile, we could look at it, even drool over it even more.
Yeah, you have to focus it in on the camera, and it's literally paperback book size. Just phenomenal material. A lot of fun reading. Great introduction for science fiction there. Some of it gets reprinted with a level of respect. There was a whole series that Epic did back in. Let me see who the editor was. This Archie Goodwin was editor in chief at the time.
About 84 or something.
I think so. Let me find a copyright on this. This is one of the. Nope, this is 71.
71. Epic.
71. Epic graphic novel.
Not Epic magazine.
No, copyright 1971 by Darkguard.
Wow.
Printed in the USA, copyright 1989. That's when this was printed. This is a collection of Blueberry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
By the great Mobius.
Yeah.
I love this book. Never been able to, if you ever see the Epic illustrated versions of Mobius out there, definitely pick them up. And if you haven't read Blueberry, it's an amazing piece of work. Just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Western work.
And
the story is
very influenced by the fact they went to live with his mother in Mexico.
Yeah.
With the colours and all that kind of thing. The deserts that he draws.
Yep.
It's on my bucket list, that.
It's absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
To do a Western.
And again, there's so many great Western characters that are in public domain. You could probably do some really classic stuff if you wanted to. That's why you're seeing a lot of campaign material. You're seeing a lot of Westerns popping out, like Octopus Cowboy. It's an amazing looking book.
Yeah, beautiful artwork on that as well.
Yeah. Just phenomenal. I can't wait to read that and have it in my hands. But Blueberry is always fun. The foreign collections have always fascinated me as well. Dark Horse put out a set of I think it's Benini Italian collections. Dylan Dog. It's one of those, and that's an unusual format. All great reading. There was 3 or 4 different series that they did, maybe 6 books of a piece. Mike Mignola covers on that.
Wow.
Beautiful work. Negative space work.
That would work really well in black and white, that cover as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. But all of Mignola's work is meant for that, And this is all Italian. Phenomenal work. And over there, they collect them in all sorts of different formats. I picked up I had somebody a friend of mine when they were over in Italy. Actually, my daughter ended up getting this collection, if I can get to it. Right there. This is a Italian collection of Dylan Dog. All amazing stuff. This adapts like 6 or 7 different stories.
Look at that.
Yeah, the style in that.
Just amazing. Another property that the same company has is a Western character named Tex that Dark Horse has reprinted a couple stories of. One of Joe Kubert's last works was one of those Tex novels.
There's a video online of Joe Kubert doing penciling and inking, like from the school.
Yeah.
And just where he's saying, I'll do this and do that in typical Kubert fashion. And it's just gorgeous. Everything he's doing is just, you're just watching him trying to think, how can you just eke some of that talent out?
It's one of those guys that could take a brush and work with a brush for 5 minutes and have something beautiful.
Yeah, just amazing.
Just incredibly jaw-dropping. I was at a show one time and watched the Al Williamson's table, and Williamson said he never does convention sketches, never. I asked him for a convention sketch, and he says, I never do them. And he was sitting there, and there was nobody around the table, and he looked at me and says, give me your sketchbook. And I gave him my sketchbook. He took a ballpoint pen and sat there and did a wandering line. Illustration took him about 5 minutes of the back of Flash Gordon standing on a cliff with a city in the background. Just amazing.
God.
just sit there and went, wow. Okay. Not a whole lot of artists have startled me like that in the past. I mean, and it was definitely Williams. It was beautiful, but it was a quick sketch. You know, it was a quick way. It wasn't. You know, to him it was like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Because he was bored and nobody was talking to him.
Don't tell anybody I did that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell anyone.
We'll show it around to everybody.
Sign it.
Yeah. Oh, he signed it. He did. He signed it.
No, yeah, I won't tell anyone.
Oh, I got some more stuff here. The old classic Barry Windsor Smith reprinted through Dark Horse, large size, almost treasury, not quite, but still some beautiful, unbelievable work.
Good old Bazza.
Oh, look at that.
And again, I found this in a leftover box at a comic shop somewhere. You know, had to have it. It's Barry Windsor Smith. How can you go wrong?
You can't.
For a couple of bucks, you just don't. Yeah, just classic stuff. Here's a book I've had for a while. I think I've shown on the air before. Oracle. This is printed by a small independent publisher way back from Detroit in the 1976. 1976 with I believe it's Johnny let me blow this up.
Look at that.
I believe that's Johnny Craig on the inside cover.
Oh,
You can see who Stalin was looking at, can't you?
And the whole book.
Look at that.
First full book printed by George Perez.
The stars with a white out figure coming in through the stars.
yeah.
Just amazing. Yep. Oh, there's a great nope, can't show that. That was a great full body shot, but not gonna happen on the air, folks. Sorry. Very sorry. But yeah, again, the stuff you never suspect because it's got a painted cover on it that was done by somebody that wasn't George Perez, I would imagine. I don't see any credit for the cover, at least, and you would never suspect the interior work compared to the painted exterior cover. A whole $1.25 back then. Dave Lillard, who just recently passed, he printed that. He passed within, I think, the last year or so. What's up in the chat? Anything? Zagor is awesome too. Yes, I have a couple of those. Epicenter Comics out on the West Coast are doing, if you ever get a chance and you want some great reading. Zagor. Again, an older strip. I believe it's also Italy. I could be wrong, but this was originally printed in a small rectangular strip fashion. Almost like the old cereal premiums that we have. I've got a set of those around here too. I should have pulled them up. Almost like the much bigger in size than the old Chick publications. It's these books here.
I'll have some.
The religious tract is what this is, but it's in comic form, sequential art form. All sorts of propaganda. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Comics used as propaganda. I love the old Chick tracts. Don't believe anything that they print, but the format is amazing. But these Zagor books are relatively inexpensive. You'll find them under Epicenter Comics, available on Amazon. And it's very slick paper, very nice material, fun to read if you enjoy that kind of thing. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic barbarian type story, only with a kind of a Western flavor to it. Love that book. A lot of fun to read. Whoop. Yeah, I'm dropping them left and right here. Also part of my collection, another great manga. It's Golgo 13. If you've never seen Golgo 13, there was a series of these books out. That's number 4 here in the run.
That reminds me of that Nam book where the people were caricatures, but the guns were real. Who drew that one?
Yeah.
Who drew that?
This is S.T. Sato's, Saito.
Right.
This is one of the, I'm not sure if he ever went on to do any other property than this, but he was known for doing Go-Go for many, many years. And the stories are incredible, but he's a very cold-blooded assassin who never misses. And again, there was a great anime done off of this. I've got that on tape just as they were starting to play with computer animation. Some great shots on that. But the stories in Go-Go 13 are amazing. Sometimes they called him the professional when they printed him over here in the States. And there's been a lot of different printings of the stories. There's been a lot of different stories done of him. Like Lone Wolf and Cub, the creator was on that property for many years and did an amazing body of work. All of which is well worth reading. A lot of great collections. There are still a lot of fantastic collections coming out of England.
Yeah, seeing those.
Strontium Dog by Carlos Esquerra.
Yeah.
Just one of my favorites. Just phenomenal individual work. Very unique style. Very much his own. So much fun.
So much on the page.
So much on the page. I just ordered his stainless steel rat adaptation, that 2000 AD serialized. They just collected that together. That's also available over on Amazon. I should get some sort of royalty. We should get some royalty program working with Amazon and sell their stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff around that if you go looking for it, you can. A lot of phenomenal stuff. We've talked about the Sumerian before out of, I believe it's Italy or France. They're adapting all of the Conan stories, only doing straight adaptions instead of washed over adaptions.
Have either of you two seen those Dave Gibbons, that superhero did for South Africa? I don't know the character's name.
Which one is that?
I don't know what it was called, but he did a series of books that were only produced or published in South Africa. A superhero. I can't remember what it was called.
That would be fascinating to read.
Yeah, I just wondered if any of them sort of, because everything leaks out, doesn't it? They're only published in South Africa.
Yeah, I can't say that I've seen it or even heard of it, but we did have a South African publisher on. Oh, it's been a while. We need to get him back on the air again. That was doing a website where you could read the books digitally, and as well as buy hard copies and have them shipped to you.
I think Dave Gibbons did this in the 80s.
Very likely.
Sure. It's quite a while, but he produced a lot of artwork for it. But I don't remember what it was called.
Anybody know what Dave's doing now? I haven't seen him in a long time.
No. Probably enjoying his royalties.
Yeah, whatever he damn well wants, I suppose.
Yeah, good for him.
Probably true. Yep. Yeah. There's a lot of comic strip collections out, like that comic strip News. This is from the News Herald.
Wow.
That's newsprint, the Lake County News Herald. We had a local paper that would do this also. I think they got the idea from the old Spirit sections, where they would reprint the comic strips only in newsprint comic. And this is stapled. No, this has got two staples on it. And it's got Ripley's Believe It or Not right on the front, and an ad for old pool tables on the back. You buy a pool table for $300, a foosball table for $278. How do you like that? And this has got there's a Disney adaptation of Black Hole right there.
Oh, Black Hole.
Kirby.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is. It sure is. Right there.
He did everything.
Get that. Anything he could. I have a copy of Spirit World that he did in my magazine collections. I just didn't take the time to rummage through all of it. I was kicking up enough dust.
Mm-hmm.
Back there's Prince Valiant by that's Foster right there. Zoom in on that detail.
That's fabulous, isn't it?
Oh.
It's
Oh,
fabulous.
come on, camera. Focus. Just phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Back then, those Sunday pages were tremendously huge. And you could sit there and back when you could spend an entire week on a Sunday page. Do that drawing up. There's who is that? Old Conan strip. Chua,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Wow.
That's John
Robert E.
Buscema.
Howard.
Yeah.
That's back when Schwarzenegger's Conan was raging. Star Trek. Didn't realize they had a comic strip for a while. That's
Yeah, I
back
think-
when
I think-
the motion picture outfits.
I thought Remitter did a strip for.
I think it was there was a Star Trek. I've got some copies of it in Tornado. I think it was from the early 70s.
This is Thomas somebody.
Yeah, Remitter didn't do that one. I thought he had
No.
I thought he did
Martinton.
special one.
Don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, real interesting to see your Sunday newspaper would kick out a comic every once in a while, obviously inspired by the Spirit strips. So it's about all I've got. At least here in my piles here, I've got Seeger's Popeye.
Trying to
It's
see if
also
there's
nice.
anything
If you
different.
haven't seen those from Fantagraphic Books, I think these are also available over on Amazon. The die cut cover on it.
I am what I am.
I've got
Exactly that.
I've got one of the most diverse Eternals covers ever.
Yeah, I've got that one. Yeah.
What is that? That's a cut
No.
and paste.
They're all the same. They're all the same.
Oh, all the Eternals covers, you mean, or what?
No, just all the figures on that.
All the
on
figures?
cover.
Oh, somebody,
figures on that.
Kirby working in a hurry.
No. Well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I need a cover when? I
we
got
had-
it. Give me a zero.
We had great stuff on old paper stock.
Just phenomenal. Yeah. Old newsprint
Lovely
that
stuff.
Varian would hate.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate.
First appearance of, at least in the UK, of Daredevil in his old suit.
Okay.
That was quite cool.
Is that the Great Britain's first appearance of Daredevil?
Yeah, it would have been the first. It's the original story of where Daredevil
Okay.
first appeared, and
Yeah.
it's the first appearance in a comic of Daredevil in the UK. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I can
obviously
just
not
see
not the American original. That would be very expensive.
Well, yeah. I can just hear Wally Wood screaming about the having to draw that costume over and over again. Go, you know what? It's all red now. It's all red. Just make it all red. It's a devil. Just make it red.
We had loads of I got Havoc. We had loads of particular it was in the 90s. A lot of these sort of
Havoc.
magazine things
Yeah.
turned up. DC did one as well, which I've got a load of. I can't remember what it was called, but they started off with Swamp Thing in there.
I've got one called Toxic.
Toxic was like it
That
was
was
like
all
a
new material.
follow up. Yeah, that Toxic was. I think Toxic was a follow up to
Warrior.
no.
Yeah,
Warrior was out
the
before
Pat
that.
Mills one, wasn't it? The
What-
Pat Mills
what-
comic.
Right. Okay, I'm thinking
You
of a
left-
different one.
He left 2000 AD. And he
Yes.
produced one with Carlos Esquera in about 1990, I think. And then
Yeah,
Toxic
90,
was after
yeah.
that.
Toxic was after that.
But I can't
Okay,
remember
yeah.
what it was called. now.
No, I can't. No,
But it was
there's
really-
Deadline
really-
as well.
It was really gritty and dark
Yeah.
and political. wasn't
Deadline was like an offshoot of 2000 AD, was it? Because
Yeah.
it was all Brett Ewins and
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. And then you had A1 Comics because they had a lot of Brian Bolland in. And all that kind of stuff. But the big publishers were playing with different formats in the UK, trying to find out what was going to stick. And unfortunately, nothing ever did.
One of my
Was it-
favorite properties out of Toxic, I believe it was called the Bogeyman. That was a guy who looked exactly like Humphrey Bogart that escaped from an asylum and kept thinking of himself in the old classic movies and going through all of these situations, doing a self-narration about Bogart in different films. Just
Russ, I think
amazing.
that comic, Russ, was Crisis.
Crisis.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to remember. Crisis. Well done. Yeah, I had a few of those.
Martial Law, an amazing
Martial
one.
Law. There was
Yeah.
Kevin O'Neill. That was
Kevin
very
O'Neill. Brilliant.
ooh, yeah, that was. Now this was really clever, really clever.
It's
Because
about
it was,
about 2 notches up above Judge Dredd.
yeah, I mean, this was decompressing superheroes.
Yeah.
In the same way that Watchmen did, but it did it in such an entertaining way.
Yeah.
And the artist on that, they I think Diamond banned his entire style off of Martial Law, if I'm not mistaken, called it too vulgar,
I don't know.
something like that. I know he ran into some trouble with
I
that.
think they all did.
Yeah. Well, if you had your own voice, you're pretty much blazing your own trail back then.
Sounds like today.
I think Russ went out to get more stuff.
No, I just had to knock on the door. Yeah, who banned? Did somebody ban Kevin O'Neill? You say?
I believe so. I thought his style was judged as being too rough by Diamond or somebody. There was a big controversy about that.
What a load of crap!
Yeah, I
Kevin O'Neill's a
don't remember
genius.
that. Somebody in the chat will.
Well,
I'm
how
sure
can
they'll
they?
correct me.
How can they ban him? How can Diamond ban him?
They just they had run into some trouble with it.
Because they said they
somewhere
wouldn't
down the
run
line.
it.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I just remember him being very controversial.
He's just one of the best comic artists England's ever produced.
Yeah, he is.
So
He is. He's up
let's
there.
cancel him, you know.
Again, not when I was of that time. Like Brian Bolland stood out to me.
Yeah.
And Mike McHone and Kevin O'Neill were anathema. I didn't understand, but now I thoroughly appreciate them as being just
my favorite
genius.
artist from those times was Cam Kennedy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
He was really good too. Yeah.
Rogue Trooper and all that.
Yeah.
Didn't he do the Light and Darkness War with what's he called? Len Wein or somebody like that?
Len
Wein. Yeah, he did. But anytime
Yeah.
it seemed like anytime the British guys came over here, or even the European folks, because I felt the same way about Daniel Torres, who I just loved his Rococo Vargas material. Was amazing. He come over here to the States and his style just went to trash. Esquero is the same way. I'm sure it was because he was kicking it out on such a hard deadline.
Yeah, probably.
That you could really see it suffer, but
they did it to
nothing matches that.
They did it to Cam Kennedy, didn't they? He fell out with somebody, and they put an inker on his work and really wrecked it.
Oh yeah. I know a couple of artists. They did that too.
I think that was on Marvel. And he went to DC and did. I think it was DC that did Light and Darkness War, whoever it was, and he painted those pages, didn't he? And he's a great painter, Cam Kennedy.
It just shows you how ridiculous it all is.
It shows you how vindictive people
are.
And how petty things can get. Yeah,
that's terrible.
I mean, I always thought it was amazing that you would hire such a, do your homework. You would hire Cam Kennedy and let him produce finished artwork, not have somebody ink it. Right. But I guess that might have been to make it kind of American style, because obviously Cam Kennedy.
It might have been deadline heavy. It might have been deadline heavy too. They wanted to hit a deadline at a certain time, and in order to do that, you had to get an inker.
The problem is that increasingly over the last 30 years, the artwork has changed from being more all about story into being all about being beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
And what happens is you increase the schedule on that. You increase the production time on that. And then you don't make money.
Yeah.
Because
if you don't know how to tell a story.
Yeah, if you have somebody put out beautiful painted pages and it costs you $500 or $1,000 a page, okay, all right, and then you put that out and you have to make the book, I don't know, $20-$30 for the book, but in a fraction of the time you can do it for a fraction of the cost, put it out at a fraction of the price and sell multiple versions of it on time, on schedule, every month, and keep the same customers coming back, then it's a no-brainer, isn't it? So but the thing is there's no clear way in the comic book industry anymore. But from what I can see, there's no clear sort of distinct. We will make it look like this, or we will do this in order for it to work. And what that means is you get a drop in standards.
Yeah.
Rather than
because none of these companies have a clear direction.
Yeah, exactly. It's the direction that's the issue. Yeah.
Or even an objective. Everybody argues over how they're going to get their political statement out more than they do how they could actually do that and not offend the reader or be preaching or screaming at the reader.
Yeah.
It's anyway.
There's no subtlety.
That's a whole nother story for another time. Russ, tell folks how they can find you.
Oh, you can find me when I'm not shouting at cars and dealing with my cat. You can find me here on YouTube at Comic Book Black Belt. I'm going to be live probably tomorrow night drawing. Normally live on a Monday night drawing. I hang out with Joe Fulton on a Thursday because he talks really good stuff about comics, and that's what we do. I hang out with these guys at Indie Vault. And you can also find more about the book, Only Death Can Save Us, at onlydeathcansavus.com, at russleach.com, and at comicbookblackbelt.com. I'm going to do a link tree at some point. It's going to make it a lot easier. And you can find me on the Twitter, the Fleece Book, the Minds, and the Instagram. There you go.
And you have your second book campaign starting up in Indiegogo in October.
Yeah, October 1, second book will be starting. Yeah, you get. I'll show you some artwork. There you go. Show you quick artwork of what's going on right now.
While you're pulling that up, Pop Culture Avengers says, has anybody seen Amber Blake Operation Dragonfly? Mag by Heavy Metal, put out this summer. Fantastic art. Pencils by Butch Geis. I think it's a one-shot. Probably was. Heavy Metal. They've been trying to do some comic book work lately. There we are. Look at that.
There you go. It's a bit of artwork going on there. It's pages.
Where is this from, or can you say?
This is Only Death Can Save Us, book 2.
Oh, okay, cool.
So yeah, this is just a quiet moment for Chrissy before it gets really bonkers.
Cool.
So she's dealing with the fact that she does not exist anymore, not in the real world. So there you go.
There's a teaser. Yeah. Marvy says, thanks for keeping me company while drawing. Take care, everyone, and be safe. Same to you, Marvy. Hope you're doing well. Glenn, tell folks how they can find you.
Really easy. Get me on Facebook, or you can email me at comicsunlimitedmagazine@gmail.com. You'll also find me on Indiegogo in a couple of weeks when I'm launching my Final Cut DVD Kirby and the accompanying book. So I'm on Twitter, but like everybody else, not very often. So but mainly you get me on Facebook.
Yeah, stay off that Twitter. It'll kill you.
Just getting. There's a lot of people abandoning Twitter. I've been seeing a lot of videos about people running from the platform because I've
never really used it. I've never noticed much of this abuse or any of this abuse. Really,
I have to say I tend to I go on there and I post art. And I follow some artists and some creators,
that's what
and I repost their stuff because I really like their art. And then I jump off and I go and do some work.
Yeah. I think if you want stuff, you can find it, can't you? So some people must be looking for the abuse, but I've never really come across it.
I've not found it yet. No.
So some people are up there just to get abuse.
Yeah.
I think they go up there and say controversial things just to get the attention. So
some people like it.
I just never get into it. If anything happens on my Facebook pages, I just ban them immediately. I don't want to know. What's the point?
No. Life's too short, mate.
Yeah.
I just delete the comments. I don't want to ban people outright. I think there's only one person I've ever really banned from my Facebook page, and that's because they wouldn't shut up. But other than that, I just delete them because some of those people are fun to have around.
I almost ban myself.
Just a point and laugh sometimes. Anyway.
I was thinking of banning myself and coming off the whole thing, but there you go.
There you go. I banned myself. I'm off of Facebook. 30-day suspension. I gave it to myself. I'm such a shit. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I've been your host, Randy Zimmerman. We appreciate you listening to an episode of Sunday Funnies for the 12th of September. for 2021. We hope that we've given you shown you a few things and given you a little bit of information you didn't have before, and that you had a good time at least listening or watching the show. We are available on YouTube, on Facebook, and on internet radio on the Indie Volt channel, indievolt.com. So go over there and listen. Whenever there isn't a podcast playing, you'll hear a selection of alternative and independent music programmed by the Indie Princess herself. So you'll see us back again Tuesday night for the Live Wire program at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then Wednesdays at 9 p.m. is Geekgasm, run by Lola, the Indie Princess, and Varian sometimes pops in on that. Then Thursday morning, Varian and myself, and maybe Daphne this time, we're not sure if she's back from chasing that mouse yet, will be on the Breakfast Buzz Thursday morning, 9 a.m. And then Saturday afternoons at 2:30 is Pitches Be Crazy, run by Brandon and Varian, where we have people on with, and you're laughing. Glenn, you're
That's
laughing.
mad. I've been on it. It's absolutely crazy.
It's a fun variety show where people pitch their campaigns or their items using a specific theme. So
they get you singing and all sorts of stuff.
You never know what you're going to expect, and that's what makes watching that program so much fun.
Good. It's good.
It's great entertainment. And folks, we're all archived over at YouTube, so go over there and take a listen. We are past the 1,400 mark at this point with subscribers, so go over there and subscribe. Hit that like button, hit that bell, join the channel if you can. On a regular subscription, there's a bunch of programming that we want to do that we're not going to put out for public consumption. That if you become a regular member of the program, that you'll be able to listen to, that we'll have in a secret location that you can click on and enjoy at your leisure. All of the other podcasts are usually over there or over at the Indie Volt Roku channel. So go over there, Indie Volt TV. There's all sorts of streaming stuff, wrestling and the like. Variant's in the green room right now, but he's not coming in. So he's probably just there listening. And I think that's everything except for this. Coming up next Saturday. That's this Saturday. I should say the 18th of September. We will be broadcasting from Dave and Buster's, giving away awards for the Indie Volt Comic Book Awards, celebrating alternative and independent comics, and a Hall of Fame. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be streaming from there. We're not sure how many people will be there, but hopefully it'll be in front of a live or semi-live audience. And the awards are a judged event. It's not a popularity contest. There's one entry there that's a popularity contest. Other than that, it's a judged event in order to try to bring more recognition to alternative and independent comics. So and that'll be an annual event held at a Dave and Buster's somewhere around the continental United States. So stay tuned for the announcements for the second award show as soon as we get done with the first one. So. Other than that, I think that's everything. Make sure I've been your host, Randy Zimmerman. You can catch me on Facebook. You can go over to Arrow Comics 4.0, more especially over on Facebook, on Linktree, on Instagram, and on Twitter. There is a Arrow Comics 4.0 site for you to look at, to look at all of the stuff we have upcoming and things that we have going on. Can't wait. There's more announcements to come that we keep having had put off and all sorts of exciting things happening behind the scenes that we can't talk about. That's all that we can say about, and look forward to telling you all about that when it's permissible. So other than that, we hope that you have a great rest of your weekend, great rest of your day. Stay safe, everyone, and everyone. Any last words?
No.
No. Thanks for
Buy
listening.
independent comics, especially ours. There you
That's
go.
right. And as
I'm
Varian likes to say,
filling in
Yep.
for Daphne.
filling in for Daphne. And as Varian likes to say, please leave this industry in better shape than what you found it. And
Be
if you
nice.
have, be nice. If you have some time, go spend some time at your local retailer and go through his magazine boxes, his old book boxes. You never know what you could come up with. There's all sorts of little treasures there just waiting to be found. And there's some great, great, great comics out there just waiting to be read. So, all right, folks, going out the way we came in. Wish you the very best. Take care now. And we'll see you no later than next Sunday. But next Tuesday, we'll be on Livewire. Thursday morning for the breakfast buzz. And then again, Sunday morning here at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another edition of Sunday Funnies. All right, everybody, take care. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Yay! Think about what you've accomplished.
Can you hammer a 6-inch spike through a board with your penis?
Not right now.
A girl's gotta have her standards.